You've walked me through fires, pulled me from flames.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Sister Alena X Ritchie, and I am pleased to bring you another Campfire Talk for 2021 Camp Out. I am joined by three amazing youths in the church, and I'm excited to get started. What we're going to talk about today is really how God is influencing their decisions and the role that their branches play in being surrounded by the family of God. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from the McKees Rocks branch in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is the greatest city in the world. And I hope you all attend McKees Rocks one day. But anyways, Sydney, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and get us started.
Hi, I'm Sister Sydney Lavalvo. I go to Farmington Hills Branch 2 in Michigan, and we're saying our favorite hymns. So mine is Are Ye Able?
Very cool. Ben, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brother Ben Droskevich from Forest Hills Branch in Florida. My favorite hymn would probably be He Planted Me Deep.
Very cool. And Paolo?
All right, so how are you? I'm Brother Paolo DiCenzo from the Keys Rocks branch, and I would say I think it's called First Love in the Saints hymnal is my favorite song.
Okay. No one else picked I Will Sing You My Redeemer, so I'm kind of judging your picks, but that's okay. Anyway, so, before we got started, they filled me in on where they are in their lives between college and, just graduating high school and getting into the last semester of college. So what I really want to get to know from you guys is, you're all in periods of transition. You're all looking to the next step, going to college, graduating college, looking for jobs. And how is God influencing your decisions, and how has he influenced your decisions? Brother Ben, go ahead and kick us off with that one.
I feel like you can kind of tell that God's intervention is there. I feel like it's kind of like it's hard to explain. It's kind of like a spirit, and it kind of just guides you throughout your life. But you don't really know it's there until a certain point in your life. And I don't know, it's like an unspoken thing, I guess you could say.
Was there any point in picking a college where you really felt that God was speaking to you, or that he was really influencing your decision?
Oh, well, yeah. So I was deciding between two colleges, and I toured both of them. And I just feel like when I toured one, I really just I don't know, it was like an unspoken thing about it. I just kind of felt like it was like I could see myself here. I was comfortable there. And then it was like a no-brainer at that point.
That's pretty cool, right? So he gave you that feeling of confidence and comfort. And even in the time of questioning, it was really clear, where his peace was at. That's a really neat testimony. Sydney, anything?
Yeah, well, I guess for me, like you mentioned, I'm in my last semester of college. So I always knew I wanted to go into healthcare, but I didn't really know. My mind kind of changed as the years went on about what I wanted to do. And I think 2 years ago, I got a job at one of our hospitals near my house. And I started off the job super, super shy, didn't have a big group of friends or anything like that, but I got the work done and I was really thankful for it. And through that job, I learned what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go into occupational therapy. And then recently in the last few months, I obviously am super thankful for that job, but I was starting to feel unhappy there. I felt like I learned all I could learn, and I felt kind of stuck, but I knew I needed this job to help me get into grad school, and I didn't really know what to do. So I was praying about it, and literally on a whim, the hospital system that I work for has 8 hospitals across the state. And I was just looking, and I saw that one of the hospitals that was still near my house had a bunch of openings on the oncology unit. I applied for the job. The next day I had an interview, and the next day they offered me the job. And it was a very seamless transition. I've been there for over a month now, and I am just so happy there. And I'm so thankful that God kind of paved the way for me. And also just thinking back on it, 2 years ago, I might have realized that I was upset there, but I might have just settled and stayed there because I didn't have the confidence or just the confidence to go and try something new because I was so shy. So I realized that God provided that personal growth for me in the past 2 years and helped me realize that I don't have to be stuck somewhere. I can move on and do things that are better for me.
Yeah, that's a really cool lesson, right? That like through something as practical as a job, God taught you a really valuable lesson in your spiritual life, right? And like, I mean, Paolo knows this, right? Because we go to the same branch, but I never thought, I went to college and through college, I traveled all around the world. I was in Chile and Brazil and Guatemala. And then I went to grad school away from home. And I never thought I would end up back in Pittsburgh at my branch, but I am, right? God works in very mysterious ways when it comes to paths of lives. So it's a really neat testimony. Paolo, anything?
So one thing that I could think of is just honestly deciding which college to go to. And if I should either go to where I could get a free ride for golf, like in the middle of nowhere. And, honestly, it all came down to like just prayer. And, whenever towards the end and where I was getting to decide, I found out that I could get scholarships down at RMU, which is actually staying here, and I'd be living here and going to the same branch. And, it's all just great because I could be at a free ride in college, but there'll be no church, and, that'll take me away. And so, God has all these plans that you don't even think of, but he's always in control, and it's a blessing.
So something you guys all hit upon, which like props to you guys for being so young and really listening to God is, you guys all talked about prayer and really honing in on what God is telling you. So how do you listen to God, right? I think that's half of the equation, right? A lot of times we pray and we're like, okay, God, I want this, or God, tell me this. And then you sit there expecting an answer, right, in a very clear form. And that's not always the case. So how do each of you listen to God and know what he's actually telling you, right? Ben, you talked about that feeling of comfort, and Paolo, you talked about being close to the branch, but in other aspects of your life, how do you listen and hear what God is telling you and how he's directing you?
For me, at least, I have to go into the mindset of like, I'm asking God to help me, but he might be helping me in a way that I don't necessarily want. Like, it's not good. I might not get the answer that I'm asking for. So I just have to go into it with an open mind and just try to listen and not have like any preconceived notions of what I want. And so when I kind of do that, it helps me hone in on more of like listening and just not being like, okay, well, he's not telling me what I want, so I'm just going to keep waiting. No, he's telling me something. I should kind of listen to that and figure out what my next move is.
Right. That idea of preconceived notion is so important because I know in my own life, I'm very like impatient and impulsive. So for me, it's like, if the door's open, I'm going to walk through it. So unless God like closes the door and like locks it, I'll still try to be walking through it. Right. So I totally get what you're saying. And I think you're also hitting on another important point is that, waiting is not a passive action, right? Waiting on God is something very active. It's a time where you really need to dig deep and dive into the word of God and into, the family of God around you and figure out what he's actually telling you in that waiting period. That's a really good point. Paolo?
One thing that I was thinking of is like, for me, I never like hear God just be like, hey, do this, or like go and do this. It's more about what he puts upon my heart that I know that it's more like, all right, I can do this now because this is where you're leading me to. Because I mean, if he could like talk to me, like if it was a person, that'd be amazing. But obviously that doesn't happen sometimes. So you just got to trust yourself and your heart. Well, even not even yourself. It's more God telling you through yourself, through your heart, of where to go and what to do. If you should go and see a brother or sister or call someone or whatever it may be.
Right. I think I was talking to one of the ministers in my branch one time and I was telling him like, I just find it so frustrating. I feel like there's so many people around me who, go to sleep at night and wake up with a dream of something that God told them directly. And I'm like, I just want that. And he was like, but if you had that, they would take all the guessing out for you, right? Like for you like the freedom of it. And I was like, well, that's a fair point. Like, even if God told me directly, I'd still be like, really? Are you sure?
Yeah.
What about you? How do you listen to God?
I feel like to touch on what everyone else said, I feel like it's also important to know that like, as stubborn as humans we are, we try to go one way. And I feel like he knows, like he has all our plans mapped out already, whether we know it or not. So he knows what the outcome is going to be like we were saying, you came back to your branch. So I feel like we just have to like, even though it's out of our comfort zones, kind of just like let loose and just kind of like go with the flow sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. In my life, that is one of the hardest. I love being in control, right? I love making my own decisions. I love being independent. And trusting that God's plan is the best plan and that it's working is a really hard thing to do. And I think a lot of times we forget, right, when we have questions or we need to listen to God, we literally have all the resources we need in the Bible, Book of Mormon, right? Like all of the answers and resources I need are sitting on my nightstand right now. but like, how often do I really look at them that way versus, this obligatory book I have to read, or, whatever it is. So that's a really good point. So I want to ask you guys about your branches. And Paolo, if you don't say that I'm your favorite sister in McKees Rocks, I'm going to be really upset. I'm just kidding. But I want to ask you guys about your branches and, how you are surrounded by your branch throughout the week and in your decisions. How have the people in your branch supported you and really been there for you and influenced the trajectory of your life? I know for me in my branch, I can go through the pews and look at every single person and tell you something that they've said in their testimony or told me that has stuck with me. And I want to know that from you. What has the family of God in your branch, what role have they played in your life? Paulo, I'll start with you. No pressure.
Yeah. No, I was actually going to say is the one thing and I can say in our branch, I feel it a lot, but like, I think every branch you go to is just like the love of God and just the love of all the brothers and sisters that they give to you. And even if you say hi, they're going to say hi back and even hug you. And it's amazing. And you could always go to other people. It's like what your dad would say every end of the meeting is love one each other. I can't remember all of it, but it was like, it always stuck with me throughout every week. And that whenever you go and see someone, it's just all the love that you feel throughout the branch.
Yeah. What about you, Cindy?
I can't say more amazing things about my branch, and I feel like everybody says that about their branch, but it really is so true. Our branch has a great group of young people, and we also have a great group of older brothers and sisters who like are in their 80s and 90s who just keep trucking along and are always so supportive of us. I think something that might be unique to our branch is we just finished our new building. And it's been like an 8-year process for us. And we've merged with other branches as well. So we kind of have like this whole like mixed group of people from different starting points, but we're all kind of at the same like end point in Farmington Hills. And everybody is just so supportive. I can't express like how many texts or calls I get just like throughout the week, especially when we weren't seeing each other. And everybody made an effort during the pandemic to just kind of stay connected. And so even now we're back into our beautiful new building. And I think just the fact that we're so thankful to be there. And it just makes me feel so grateful and thankful for all the people there who work hard to help support us and helped us to get to this point.
Right. It creates like a good spirit of thankfulness without, everyone's very excited to be in a new place with everyone. Yeah, that's it. I felt like that after the pandemic, right? Like we all came back to the branch and it was like, oh my gosh, like, even though we've been looking at each other through the screen, this is great. So yeah, I totally get that. Ben, what about you? How has your branch influenced your life?
I feel like, I love my branch. We're very lucky. We have like 15 elders. Like we have a lot of people and we have a really strong like youth. And so we do like a lot of youth events and stuff. And that really like has influenced me, especially the people that are close to my age. Like if one's in trouble, the other one, we talk to each other a lot about different things, like we lift each other up. And also even like the older brothers and sisters in our branch, they're like my own like grandparents. And it's like crazy to think about that, but like they really are your family,
Yeah, it was funny. There was this one older sister the other Sunday who was asking me questions about something, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to like pressure you into telling me anything." I'm like, you're gonna find out anyways, right? We're family, so you're gonna figure it out. But yeah, the feeling of walking into the branch every Sunday is such a unique feeling, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand it until you really experience it. And you walk into a building full of people who are invested in you and who care about you. And it's a life-changing feeling, right? But I want to ask each of you, is there anyone in your branch specifically that has been a big spiritual influence that has really kind of shown you and paved your way spiritually so that you can be successful in your walk with God?
I feel like this is kind of cliche, but I say both my parents. You could always go to them for everything. And even with my dad's kind of story, he knows what to do and what not to do. And I could always just go up to him to say like, hey, I don't know what to do here. And he'll already know, hey, just like go to God and pray for it. Don't do what I've done. That's what he always tells me. And that's exactly what I do. And I always looked up to him and my mom.
I feel like for me, obviously both my parents, and I have some grandparents that are also my branch, but brother Ethan, who's like our age, me and him have grown up together in the same branch, and I feel like, I mean, we've been through everything together, so he's a really like spiritual leader in my life.
That's a really cool, okay, Ben, that is a really cool example because you point out someone who's your age, right? That you guys rely on each other. I think the other day in our branch, Paolo, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ministry kind of like advised us to, you know, find a prayer partner. So like every day at this time, you know, you take 15 minutes out of your day and pray for that person. And myself and another sister in my branch are doing that every day at 3:00. We pray for each other. And, you know, we're not the same age, but it's still a really cool experience. But Ben, that's a really neat thing that like someone your age is a spiritual influence in your life. And I'm sure you are in his. So I think that's really neat to me. Sydney, what about you?
I think without touching on like the obvious of like my parents and my grandparents who are obviously, you know, like great people and have led me in the right direction my whole life, I probably would have to say my uncle Cameron Staley. He married my Aunt Jen and he's been in my life since I was 5. But as I've kind of grown up, he's kind of taken the role of working a lot with like the young people in our branch and just being that like support for us and always reaching out. And just especially throughout my life, I've dealt with a lot of sicknesses and stuff, and they've always, my aunt and uncle live like a mile away from me. So I always just spend so much time at their house, and he has just always been like this super supportive figure in my life who has always, you know, prayed for me and been there for me when I needed it. And so I just think it's really interesting now that I'm starting to grow up and like become an adult, as scary as that is, and just being so thankful that like around this time in my life when he was this age, like he was starting to do that for me and all the other young people. So
yeah, that's really neat, right? Like it continues on. Yeah, it's funny. You know, I was sitting in a pew on Sunday with Sister Jessica Paul Mary and her daughter Eleanor, who's 2 years old. And we were sitting in the pew that I used to sit in as a kid. And I told Eleanor, I'm like, if you crawl under the pew, my name's written on the pew, you know? You know, but it is a really neat thing to see. But yeah, you know, I think it's important to recognize that the people in your branch are purposeful, right? God doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't throw things into your life just randomly, right? Everyone in your branch plays a special role in your life. And I think a different role, right? I think one thing that I've noticed in my own branch, there are people that I can, you know, that I can really laugh with, and there are people that I can really cry with, and there are people that, you know, I can really ask really spiritual questions to, or, you know, just even basic life advice, like, would you move into a townhome? Would you move into an apartment? You know, things like that. And I think that's one thing that amazes me, right, about the goodness of God in our lives is that every person matters, right? Every person in one of your pews on a Sunday or a Wednesday is playing some sort of role and influence in your life. And I think it's really neat when you start taking advantage of it. But I want to ask, you know, what is your advice to people your age or younger that are looking for guidance, that are trying to listen to God, that are trying to figure out what the next step is? My advice is, right, like, don't be impulsive and just do what you want, because that's my flaw. Don't be impatient, right? But I mean, really, what is your advice to them? What would you tell someone who came up to you and said, Ben, I don't know what I want to do next year. I don't know if I want to go to college or where I want to go. How do I know what to ask God? How do I know what God is telling me?
I mean, I feel like, as cliche as it is, I mean, put God first in everything you do. I mean, if you have an issue or you're nervous about something, I mean, just a little prayer and you'll be surprised with the results you get.
I love that, right? So you said little prayer, right? I don't believe that like any prayer, I think little prayer is a really cool phrase, because a prayer as can be powerful if it's an hour long, or it can be just as powerful if it's, God help me, I don't know what's going on, right? Like, I think that's a great piece of advice. Is as long as you're just in constant communication with him, it's still valuable. Paula, what about you?
Kind of going off of Ben, I would just say prayer. Prayer is like the one thing that I think even I did, but I wish I would have done 24/7. Just because it gets you, first of all, closer to God. Well, and then also like reading, obviously, and everything else. But I feel like prayer is more of a personal level, and then you can just go to him for everything, and he'll answer and bless you with it.
What about you, Sydney?
Well, first of all, I think it's kind of crazy that I'm giving advice, because I still seek advice like on the daily all the time about my spiritual life. But I think most of I look back on how I was as a young person and just seeking counsel for things like asking for my baptism or all that kind of stuff, like the right moves. And I would just get so stressed out if I was in a meeting and I'd be feeling the Spirit and I would be like, am I supposed to get baptized right now? What am I supposed to do with this? I would just probably say to just enjoy it. Don't stress out when you're in church and you're feeling the Spirit and you're happy, you feel it wash over you. Don't overthink your decisions. Just kind of enjoy the moment and know that God is making you feel good and he's with you and he's comforting you, and the rest will kind of fall into place. Obviously prayer and reading the scripture, like they said, are important and crucial things too, but I would just say don't overthink it, because then it makes you miss out on the enjoyment and the fulfillment of the moment.
It's so funny you say that. So as you guys are talking, I'm thinking back to my own testimony. And I remember I turned 16 and it was a switch flipped. And all of a sudden I was really miserable and just really upset. And church made me angry. And I didn't want to go to church, And I'll never forget, we were in a meeting and Brother Tom Durazio was preaching. And I knew I knew God was calling me. But I was no, I am not getting baptized. I am not staying in McKees Rocks. I am not staying in Pittsburgh. And I was adamant. And we used to have 2 meetings. Oh my gosh, it was 11 years ago. I've been baptized for 11 years. We used to have 2 meetings, and over lunch, I remember I was walking around the lunchroom and I was thinking should I ask my dad? And I was no, I am not doing this. This is not in my plans, whatever. And the next week we went to Sister Liz Gennaro's baptism and I ended up asking there. But it was a miserable week for me. And that week I cried every day. I was just miserable because I knew that God was calling me and I was totally resisting the call. Right. I think that's a really good point, is just follow where God is calling you. And sometimes it is as simple as him just telling you, just enjoy where you are and just calm down and just listen to what I'm telling you. Right. And I think I'm someone who is always looking to the future. Right. My plans are set. I mean, none of my plans have ever worked. I'm not even kidding you. I can't tell you one plan that I've made in my life that I'm currently holding onto, because God is good and his will is greater than mine. Right. Okay. Last question for you, but I think this is a good one. And I hope you guys are good examples. Have there ever been any examples of where you listened to God, but it was way out of your comfort zone? Anything that you followed God and you were super uncomfortable doing, but you were so grateful that you did.
And I guess you could just say your baptism. I mean, it was as everyone has their own personal testimony. And I guess mine was that it was just in a random meeting, but it was I don't know, I'm not the type of person to stand up and talk a lot. I don't like speaking in front of people, but when you kind of feel the Spirit, it kind of just things kind of just go with the flow. And I ended up asking after the meeting, but it's just putting yourself out of that comfort zone. It kind of, and obviously I'm kind of glad I did it, obviously, because it's the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one, right? Just standing up and saying, hey, I'm ready to be baptized it is out of your comfort zone. Even if you don't do it in the meeting, I did it after a meeting. And it was still right. I was just going up to my dad and it was still nerve-wracking. So I totally get you. What about you, Paolo?
Honestly, I think the most hardest or kind of thing I was thinking of is all my friends at school. So I'm not around all the spiritual friends, let's just say that. And they're all in the bathroom smoking and stuff. And that was the time that I think God put on my heart to talk about Jesus, and it was out of nowhere. But I mean, it was actually really cool, because then I got to find out who actually was with me and who was not really with me. And it was really cool to just see what it went through. And then everybody realized that, that they could come to me. And it was even cool because then I introduced stuff in the books and prayer and everything. And it was just really cool. And that was just something that it was really hard to do. And I even started sweating. It was just it was weird because, I don't do that stuff. And I knew that I don't do that stuff, but even doing I don't know. It's just really funny because, it's hard for a lot of people to have, let's say, both feet in on the church. Some people have one foot in life, and some people have one foot in the church. And it was kind of a step for me to get both feet into the church, and kind of see who's going to be with me in my life for who I am, which is me. So
yeah, props to you, right? Because what did we say in the branch the other day is you talk to those guys and like chances are like I will never be in the boys' bathroom in Montour to talk to them about the Lord. So like,
Yeah.
you know, like you can reach people that like none of us on this call ever will, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's pretty cool. What about you, Cindy?
I think it was probably like a year and a half ago. I was like kind of newer at that job at the old hospital. I was like more established. I'd been there for 6 months, but there was this one coworker who I felt like every time I went to work and we were working together, like she just like I felt like she really hated me. And I was like, I don't really remember doing anything to her. And I would be driving to work and I'd be like, gosh, if she's here today, like I'm just gonna have to like stay away, like just keep to myself, like not do any of that. And I don't remember like what came over me. It was like after work and we had just worked together and I was so irritated. And literally the Lord, I don't know, he didn't say it to me, but I was like, I should pray for her. Like I should just pray for her right now. And so I did. And then the next time we were at work, I just said like, hey, I don't know if I did anything to you. I'm really sorry if I did. Like, let me know if there's anything like I can do to make our relationship better because we have to like coexist and I'm not feeling like we are. And I'm a very non-confrontational person. So like the fact that this even happened, like I actually put myself out there to do it, like was all God, because I'm the type of person where I would just like keep to myself and let it bother me. And so she was just like, no, like, I'm really sorry. And she explained to me the things that were going on in her life that made her seem more on edge or anything. And after that, we never had a problem. She's actually like one of my best friends. And it was really hard for me to leave that job to go to my new job because I was going to miss her so much. But it was just that like, and that goes along with how I was saying that the Lord has given me so much personal growth because like I would have never done that like 2-3 years ago because I just was so stuck in like my ways and being like so nervous to do anything. And he made like, obviously I was super uncomfortable, but it turned out, you know, good in the end, and my professional life and my personal life benefited from it.
That's a really cool story and something I think that's like very practical in life, right? Of interpersonal relationships, like what role does God play in your friendships and, you know, the people that you're with. That's really impressive. I'm super confrontational. So like, so for me, like, I'm very impressed that you came off so nice about it because I'd be like, what's the problem? What's wrong with me? No, but I think honestly, that's really cool. And I think that's a cool way that, right, like under the influence of God, he pushes us to places where we would never naturally go. Right. And like, and it all works out because his will and his goodness is so pervasive in our lives. That's really neat. But I want to thank you guys all again for your time. I want to ask if there's anything else and if there's anything that you're looking forward to being back in person for Camp Out, or if there's anything that you missed from being in person in Camp Out.
I think the hugest thing is just the people. And whenever you're in the like branch and all the meetings, just the spirit that just comes over, like when you get it from just, I don't know, all the people around you, just when you see everybody crying and everything and you get to hug them and just, it's just the people. I miss all the people being together and all the brothers and sisters. That's pretty much it. I just miss it a lot.
No, I mean, that's right. Like it's just not the same over the camp. I mean, it's awesome, but it's just, you know, it's not the same experience. Cindy or Ben, any?
I miss it all. I truly, truly miss it all. I think back about Camp Out often when it's the summertime, and especially since we're not having one. And like the other day, I think the last Camp Out we had, I was in charge of Kids Rec, and we had water day, and it was like a disaster. Nothing worked. Everybody was happy because little kids just love water, and it turned out fine. But I just remember thinking of like how big of a disaster it was. And I was like, I would take a disastrous water day at Camp Out any day right now, just so I could be back with everybody and just having a great time. Like I want it, and I miss everybody. So I'm very thankful to have this camp in and to be able to have these videos and have everybody watch them. But I'm so excited for next summer or whenever we can have like a get together to see everybody, because I miss it a lot.
Isn't that a good point, right? Like I'll take like kids just running around in water anytime.
Yes.
We can all be together.
I will take it just so I can see all of your faces in person.
I love it. What about you, Ben? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, just the social aspect of it. Not even, I mean, of course the spiritual, but like just those like late nights of just hanging out and just like messing around, like that's like where all the memories are made. So just that kind of aspect of camp,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again. I really appreciate everyone Everyone listening really appreciates it. Thank you for your insights. You guys are awesome. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you at Camp Out next year. But thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
fun.
Have a good one.
You've walked me through fire.